Is it even possible to make a good living teaching other people your passion and your hobbies? And why would anyone even listen to you? I'm going to show you how you can start a thriving business teaching other people exactly what you love talking about every single day anyways. You can make so much money with the knowledge that already exists in your head. And I'm also going to explain why most people are actually capable of starting a business like this. I'm Chris. I've made over 7 figures with my own online coaching businesses, teaching music and business without a ton of accolades and credits. So not only is this theory, but I am living proof that this can happen. First thing I want to talk about is, why is knowledge even worth selling? Knowledge is the most valuable, intangible asset that you could give somebody else. You can't hold it, you can't touch it physically, but it's something that can change people's lives. Think about how much people are willing to pay just to know. People buy courses every day, people buy coaching programs, people buy personal trainers, people buy college. That's like the main thing. Think of how much money people spend on college or how much debt they go into. It's one of America's biggest money makers is college debt. People spend their whole lives trying to pay off this debt that they accrue from getting the knowledge from school. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it. I'm just saying a lot of people do that. Knowledge can also be completely life-changing for somebody. If you sell somebody a car, if you sell somebody a t-shirt, if you sell somebody something physical, it's something that they can touch, but it doesn't necessarily completely change their lives. What if somebody taught you how to make $1 million? Not only did you make the $1 million, but now you have the skill set to be able to make that $1 million whenever you please. If you go broke, you have the knowledge to be able to build it back up. So it's something that's very, very valuable and can change other people's lives. If you look at our surroundings, everything was built on knowledge. I have 2 guitars in front of me that was not built by one person in one generation. This entire house, this roof over my head, was not built by one person or even one generation. It was knowledge that was passed down generation to generation, and slowly over time it got optimized and got better. If you think of a house that was built in 1980 versus a house that's built now, do you see how many changes it's undergone and how much it's improved? And this was all because knowledge was passed down from one person to another, to another, to another, so that it slowly got better over time. So nothing around us would exist if knowledge was not passed down. We're in a new era where education and knowledge is being passed down in different ways, over the internet, through coaching programs, through all this stuff, and sometimes it has a bad stigma to it, but passing down knowledge is not something that's new to humanity. The whole reason humanity and civilization is the way that it is because of this fact, because knowledge was passed down. And one of the coolest parts about this is it's like selling air. There's no product that you have to have. That means that you don't have to hold inventory. You don't have to keep 3,000 of the same shirts in your closet until it sells. And if it doesn't sell, then that comes out of your pocket. If you're shipping physical products, things can get damaged in transit, things can get lost, then you have to cover the cost of insuring it. With knowledge, you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to worry about any physical thing at all and making sure the person gets it. And at the same time, that means that you can deliver things instantly. If you created a course, someone checked out on an order page, they would get the course delivered to their email immediately without you having to do anything. Even if you had to show up and teach the person, they could pay you and then you could show up and talk to them and just deliver the information immediately. You don't have to wait for shipping, you don't have to wait for things to arrive or things to not get damaged. You don't have to worry about any of that. Another great thing is that the value of the knowledge is based on the importance to the client. Let's say you had a convenience store and you sold Pepsi, there was a convenience store across the street, they sold Pepsi. They're selling essentially the same thing, so the only thing to make a buying decision is which one is cheaper. Then the 2 businesses compete by lowering their price until they're not making any money. That's a commodity. Whereas with knowledge, it's all subjective. So the cool thing is that it's just like art. If you were to ask me to spend millions of dollars on the Mona Lisa, I'd be like, no thank you. But to somebody who collects art and really values it, they would spend so much money on that. So that means that it's the same thing, but it's more valuable to one person than it is the other person. This means that with your knowledge, you can charge anything you want. You just have to find the person that finds it valuable enough to spend the money that you're asking. So instead of being in a price war, of constantly lowering your price, you can charge as much as you want, afford to get people to say no, and just find the people who find it valuable enough to say yes to you. This means you don't have to appease everybody, you just have to find your tribe. Biggest question that goes through anybody's head, and I'm sure it's going through your head at this point, is why would anyone even buy from me? When you're starting out, I think everybody has the assumption that they need to be an absolute expert in order to sell any knowledge. The truth is you don't need to be an absolute expert. If that was the case, then there would be no room for anybody else. So if I teach music production and I had to be an absolute expert at it, then I wouldn't have a job and nobody else would get paid. Only Timbaland would get paid. But do you believe that there are other people out there who aren't Timbaland that are selling knowledge on music production? Yeah, you're seeing coaches, you're seeing people teaching constantly everywhere now. Do you think they're doing that because it's not profitable and they're not able to do it and no one would buy from them? No. So clearly there's a reason why tons of people are creating courses and coaching programs now. Is because the bar isn't set at the expert level. You just have to be an expert at your own lane. And what that means is you could be a beginner expert. What I mean by that is you don't have to be Stevie Ray Vaughan to teach guitar, but if you're really good at taking a beginner to an intermediate level, for example, then that's the lane you should be in. You should find the guitarists who are starting out who want to just get a little bit better. It doesn't mean you need to play 5,000 notes per second. It just means that you need to get the client from where they're at, which is a beginner, to the next level, which is intermediate. Or you can take someone intermediate to advanced. And the cool thing is, as you level up yourself, you can level up what you start teaching people. And the best way to learn is to teach other people, because then you have to dissect every single concept so that you understand it well enough to articulate it to somebody else. People like to hire people who are just one level above them. Ask yourself this question: how much time would you have saved if the 5-year-ago version of you knew what you knew today? Most of the times the clients that come to us are an older version of ourselves. So think of all the opportunities you could have had if you had the skill set you have today, but 5 years ago. How much of the learning curve would you shaved off if the version of yourself right now was teaching the version of yourself 5 years ago? What would be different if you knew what you know now? How many opportunities would you have landed? What would be different? How many benefits would you have if you didn't have to spend 5 years and you could just hire somebody and learn something in 5 weeks? People honestly just relate to people who are closer to them. Sometimes those experts, they're intimidated by them. It just seems like such a level is just so far ahead that it's unimaginable or unfathomable for them to get to that level. Here's the thing with hiring experts too. Let's say the expert is right here and you're right here. You're just trying to get right here. The expert went through this phase that you want to get to so long ago. That means that they could have forgotten what it was like because they're so caught up in the situation that they're at now. So in many regards, it's almost better to hire the person who was just in the phase that you want to be in because it was so fresh in their mind that they know exactly how to overcome those issues. And things change. Maybe getting to the phase you want to is way different now than what the expert had to do years and years ago. I've hired business coaches that are multi-millionaires, and I've hired coaches that are freshly millionaires. There's obviously benefits to both, but sometimes I can't even relate to the people who are so far ahead because the problems they deal with now aren't really relatable to what I'm dealing with. So I can't take the advice that they're giving me miles ahead until I reach that point. Whereas if I hired somebody who just went through the phase I went through, they know how to handle the situation and they know how to get me there much more efficiently than the expert. Another thing is a lot of people assume that the top tier expert has taken up the entire market and there's no room for anybody else to start a business in that lane. This assumption comes from what we've experienced, but the world is much larger than just what one person can experience, so you have to think more abundantly. If there's millions and billions and billions of people out there, do you truly think that one person has covered the entire market? Like I said, it's based on what we experience. So if we're someone who's a guitarist, obviously our news feeds and the algorithm is tailored to what we like and is personalized to us. So if we're constantly seeing people who teach guitar, it doesn't mean that everybody out there is seeing the same news feed as you. So not everybody realizes that these people that you look up to even exist. And this is the concept that's hard to wrap our minds around, is like to truly think that there is things outside of what we've experienced. I had a client recently sign up and tell me that I was like the first coach ad that they've seen And that blew my mind. I was like, what? I see coaching ads every other post that I scroll through. But I just had to remember that not everybody's experience is the same. So to them, they were like, you're the first person I've seen. And I thought it was a godsend. To me, I was like, I see these people every other post. So it goes to tell you that not everybody realizes that all the heavy hitters in your industry exist. Everyone experiences something else. So those big people haven't taken up the entire market. There's still room for you. Here is the only thing that matters at the end of the day. Your client is in a current position that they're in right now. It's not where they want to be, and they want to get to a desired situation for themselves. They will hire you if you can uncover the value of what you give them and that you can prove to them that you can get them from here to here. We can do this by painting such a vivid picture that we understand what their problems are like and where they want to be. Because if you can describe somebody's problems better than they can themselves, they automatically assume that you have the solution. So the accolades, the credits, everything about you doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the client's still like, that's good for you. What can you do for me? So if you can prove that you can get them from point A to point B, that's what truly matters, and that's when they'll pay you. Cool, now that we got that out of the way, so how do we even do this? How are we gonna sell our knowledge in a way where people will pay us thousands of dollars for and we can make a living off of it? Number one, pick the type of person that you want to help. Is it a guitarist? Is it a piano player? Is it a football player? Is it somebody that wants to get in shape? Who is the ideal person that you want to help based on the skill sets that you have? So obviously, if you've spent 15 years playing guitar, like, what do you think you could possibly teach? Maybe it's guitar, right? So then who should you go after? Maybe a guitarist. It's that obvious. These foundations don't need to be complicated. Now that we've picked somebody, we need to figure out what are their problems right now. What kind of problems are keeping them up at night and making them tear their hair out? If you have the knowledge, you've experienced what they've experienced at one point or another, you just have to dig into your memory and remember, what are the things that really frustrated me that I wish I could figure out immediately? For example, what I helped with is I helped music producers produce beats in a way that rappers would want to buy their beats from them. That's where they are now. They're not producing high quality. They want to produce on a professional level. So the solution would be getting them from here to here. What is the vehicle that I'm going to use to get them over there? I could teach them through Zoom. I could show up and teach them all the things that they need to make a good beat that people will actually buy. The next thing you do then is you need to build your roadmap of how you get them from here over to here. So think of each big milestone they need to accomplish to get to their final destination. If I'm talking about music production, if I break it down, what are the things they need? Okay, they need to understand music theory to a degree. They need to understand their software. They need to understand how to write melodies, harmonies, how to do beats, how to arrange a song, how to mix it down so that it actually sounds professional. So those are the major milestones. Now, if I look at each one of those milestones, what are the micro steps that they need to take to accomplish that milestone? If we're looking at writing melodies and harmonies, they need to understand major and minor chords. They need to understand scales. They need to understand what notes work together. The micro steps are the lessons. If they accomplish each micro step, they'll achieve that milestone. If they achieve each milestone, they'll reach their destination. So you want to map that entire thing out, and that becomes your curriculum to what you're going to teach them. You're probably thinking in your head, well, what if they don't need all of this? Like, what if they already know some of the stuff and everybody's different? Well, you just need to find the people that want what you have. A huge problem a lot of educators make is they try to tailor everything to each individual and then try to get everybody's money. You don't want to bring on just anybody as a client. Instead of you saying like, hey, I can teach you bass, I can teach you oboe, I can teach you triangle, I can teach you cowbell, and try to appease everybody, that creates a complicated business. It's too complex for it to scale. Imagine if you had 28 bass players, 13 oboe players, like how do you help them all? Instead of complicating your own business and going to everybody and saying, I can help you, I can help you, I can help you, I can help you, why don't you have one solution and then you attract the people that want the solution? That systematizes your business. I help you play the oboe so that you can actually get performing gigs. Who wants it? And then that's where you work your marketing and your sales to be able to attract those people instead of trying to appease every single person. So that is how you build out your knowledge, the thing that you sell. Obviously, marketing, sales, that's like a whole nother ball game. If you want to learn that on a deeper level, I'll leave this training right here. Watch this video and it's really going to help you with the marketing and the sales aspect. If you've been thinking about selling your knowledge, building some sort of education business, I'd love to see if I can help you. I'll leave a link down below for you to book a call. But this is the framework to get started. It doesn't need to be complicated. You just need to flesh out your ideas. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.